I'm no expert, but when I logged on to YouTube last week to look at some highlights of First Take, they were talking about greatest boxing matches of all times, either based on context and or just the actual outcome result of the actual fight itself, the way the action went down. They had Teddy Atlas, great obvious boxing genius trainer, as you all know, involved in Mike Tyson's early development with Customato, and he's trained champions, famously giving Michael Moore that pep rally speech in his fight. So, Teddy Ellis is an expert on boxing. So they had himself and Max Kellerman, obviously, who's an expert on boxing, and then Stephen A. added his few cents. And I know this was last week, but anyway. So they named off some of the known fights that would be considered all-time greats: the Ali versus Frazier's, Ali versus Foreman. You got Hagler versus Hearns. They even threw in Gotti versus Ward, and Jose Luis Castillo versus Diego Corrales. Kind of for more of the hardcore fans, like, yeah, those were great fights too that aren't as well known. So they covered pretty much the whole list of great fights that any boxing fan and even some casual fans would even think of off the top of the head. Like I said, the criteria was either historical significance or the meaning of the fight at the time, meaning that it was just the right time, it was ripe, it was ready, it was just the perfect storm. And also the quality of the action, the tactical nature of the fight. So, like I said, they listed almost everything, but they left out one important fight, which actually led to an action-packed trilogy, with the first fight being Fight of the Year and the third fight being Fight of the Year. Now, the first fight, I think, is the best fight of the trilogy. Now, you had a controversial decision in many people's eyes. They had Morales winning that fight in the first fight. But here's the thing. In the second fight, you had Barrera winning the decision, and that was sort of controversial. And the thing is I thought that Barrera won the first fight. Now, it was not a dull fight. Even the slow rounds, if you guys don't remember, go back and watch it. It's on YouTube. It was originally a Boxing After Dark fight, and so that the first fight of the trilogy was on Boxing After Dark. You can find it on YouTube. There's a couple good videos of it, but one of them has the actual Larry Merchant, Jim Lampley play-by-play, which obviously I think you're going to want. Anyways, so that fight was great. 12 rounds. I feel like it was left out of that First Take list, and I don't see how it got overlooked by those experts, and they know their shit. I'm no expert. Those guys are so-called experts, and I know they are. I respect their craft, their game. They've been in a way long time in the game, some way, somehow. But they overlooked this fight, which led to an actual legendary trilogy, and I'm just confused as to how they overlooked it. Maybe they didn't think the social significance of the fight was that relevant, but then at the same time, like, now what society are you talking about? Because people talk about the Mexican style of fighting, which is the never say die, go forward in your face. You guys know the style. Well, these two men epitomize that whole style. And most people of a certain generation say that about that style based on this fight, this trilogy of fights, these two fighters. So Barrera versus Morales in the first fight, I think, was one of the greatest fights in boxing history, if not all-time history, at least recent history. Okay, we're talking at least from the 90s up. One of the best fights, if not one of the best boxing matches that we've ever seen. And unfortunately, it was overlooked on their list last week. So don't sleep on that fight. It's one of the greatest boxing fights you could ever watch. It has everything you want: controversy, action, just actual animosity between the two combatants. So look it up, check it out. And next time you're making an all-time great fight list, don't overlook this fight or this trilogy at all. You will be only cheating yourself. So, yeah, I'm no expert. It's my opinion. You